emerging economies, Brazil and India, to a certain extent Mexico or South Africa for that matter. Emerging economies that have a lot going for them in growth, less going for them in their ability to get anything done in what are pretty heavily bureaucratized economies. Tremendous income distribution difficulties. After all, Brazil is both Rio of the beaches and Rio of the hills. India is, of course, Bangalore and Mumbai, but it's also Calcutta. And so tremendous income distribution problems. And frankly, unfortunately, India lives in a bad neighborhood. Living next to Pakistan is not a prize these days. But those countries have something going for them. These multi-ethnic democracies that bears watching and should not be underestimated. And that is, they are democracies. We very often lose sight of the importance of being stable democracies. How India manages with a billion people who don't speak the same language, don't worship the same God, to have consequential elections that are peaceful and where the population accepts the transfer of power. It's a miracle, but it happens. And that relates to the third major shock. Because as much as 9/11 changed our conception of physical security and the economic crisis of 2008, our conceptions of economic security, the Arab Spring has called into question whether authoritarianism can ever be stable. And that is likely to have the biggest impact on the international system of all. Authoritarianism is not stable because of what I've come to call the Ceausescu moment. It's a story that the Romanians told us when we visited there in 2006. It turns out that in 1989, with revolutions all across Eastern Europe, Poland, Hungary, the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia at the time, Nicolae Ceausescu goes into a square in Bucharest. There are 250,000 people in the square, and he's exhorting them for what he's done for them. And all of a sudden, one old lady yells liar. Then 10 people, then 100 people, then 1,000 people. Now 100,000 people are yelling liar. And Ceausescu turns to run, but the young military officer who's supposed to deliver him to freedom delivers him to the revolution, and he and his wife Elena are executed. The Ceausescu moment is when what separates and protects the dictator from his people breaks down, and that's fear. An old woman yells liar. A soldier refuses to fire in the crowd. A policeman gives way at the Berlin Wall. And now all you've got is anger. And anger is actually a terrible way to make political reform. And what you're seeing in the Middle East is what happens when reform comes too late and you have revolution instead. And revolutions are notoriously difficult to channel. And so it's going to be very rocky in the Middle East because we're learning again, if you don't give people a peaceful way to change their circumstances, which is what democracy does, they will use other means to get there. And we are going to hear voices in the Middle East that we don't want to hear. We're going to have to deal with people that we haven't had to deal with before and we don't want to. But it's better than the silence of tyranny in the long run, because the silence of tyranny is just a lid on something that sooner or later is going to explode. So these three major shocks have led to a rebalancing of the international system.